Well, hey, Vision. Okay, we're excited about this new series, The Journey. It's going to be really the longest series we've done so far. It's going to last throughout the fall. We've broken up into 3 stages. Calling the first one Campfire Talks. The second part is going to be Tools. And the third is going to be Understanding God. And I'm going to dig into the purpose behind that in just a second. First, I'm going to welcome you if you're watching on Facebook Live. We are glad you're there. And in fact, we've got people watching today, if you guys didn't know this, from Ohio, Tennessee, Florida, and Texas at a minimum. So we say hello to you guys, and we're definitely praying for those in Texas and Florida. I want you guys to know if you're out of town or homesick, just get on Facebook, on the Vision Facebook page at 9:30 on Sunday mornings, and you can watch this live. That's what we do. And you can share it with other people and then invite them to come to church. That's what we do. Like Tabitha mentioned, get your takeaway card out. And also, I want your help with something. Go ahead and grab a connection card, okay? There's no excuses now because there's one either in front of you or right behind you. So everybody grab one. Everybody grab a connection card. And what I'm asking you to do sometime during the service today is put at least a little bit of contact info on there, and particularly let us know how we can be praying for you. That I, as a pastor, I will look through all those this week. Our care team will take those and pray over those this week. We want to know if you're a 2 or a 10 or anywhere in between, how we can be praying for you. And all you do is you fill it out, or if next steps or any questions you have, and you drop it at the connection center in the back. It's that easy. You can do that any week with those connection cards. So today, we're jumping into this new series called The Journey. And I love this concept of journey because, life just feels like that sometimes. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, sometimes you go through storms, sometimes through good weather, sometimes different people, different seasons, and life truly feels like a journey. I mean, that is a symbolism, I think, that fits for most of us. Now, where this came from, I want to kind of share from my heart for a minute. Maybe you, okay, who in here has, first of all, kids? Okay, you got any kids? Okay, and any kids that have graduated from high school and gone off to college somewhere? Okay? Because me and Meg are like closing in on that. All right, so take a look first at this picture. You ever do like the first day of school picture? And this is, first day of school this year. And so, there's Elena and Elijah, and then Emmaus is on the right. And for Emmaus, this is his, last first day. He's a senior in high school. Now, it's really cute that when you look back to like his first day, and you see, the young businessman. He had aspirations, and now he's gone after those aspirations. He's very successful. But the heart part of it is back, I think it was around June, and I was really praying hard about our fall series and what we wanted to accomplish with it. And I felt like God really spoke to me. And if you hear me talk about often my chance to invest in your life, I say, if God gives me a chance to be a part of your life for 2 years, I feel very blessed. And we've seen this year so many people move away, to Greensboro or to New Jersey or to Georgia. And that's just what God does. He just moves us around. So when I think about my investment in your life, I think, okay, if I have a chance to spend 2 years with you, I want to give you the best I can. I don't want to think, well, in 5 years, I'll try to teach you this. Or in 10 years, we'll work on this. I want to make the most of our time together. So back in June, as I was praying about our fall series, and I thought about my son Emmaus. And I thought, what would I tell him if I was literally going to sit around the campfire with him and prepare him for leaving? Okay, now you mamas in the room, I'm sorry, okay? If you're like, I don't want to think about that. Okay, then don't think about that. Don't think about it. Think about, my son. You're not real heartbroken when Emmaus moves away, but me and Meg, it's going to be tough. But the reality, with my son Emmaus, I would want to sit down, and like this series, we're taking 16 parts. I thought, what would I tell him if I sat down around a campfire? If I sat down to try to give him some tools for his journey. If I sat down and said, here's who God is. Here's in 25 years of walking with God, here's how I understand God. And I kind of put all this together and gave it to him and said, hey, we've been trying hard for 18 years to shape you and mold you and prepare you. But this is like the compilation of it. This is the totality of what I would give you if I really boiled it down and said, son, you're heading out, whether you're going to Charlotte or Jersey or Africa, wherever you go, you can choose to take these things with you, these essentials for life on your journey. The cool thing is this isn't just for high school seniors. I mean, this is for you, and this is for younger, and this is for older, because for any of us, we are on this journey, and we don't want to just survive it. We don't want to just kind of endure and just make it through another year and make it to the end of life. And we want to thrive. Just like when you go on a real journey and you go hiking or you go, on a family adventure and you say, hey, let's figure out how to make it most successful. You try to figure out what the essentials are. Kind of like that backpack if you're going hiking. And we were, talking before about, going to Crowder's Mountain. And, what would you put in a backpack? What would you take with you? Those essentials of, snacks and water, maybe a compass, toilet paper. I mean, those type of things. You say, man, make sure you got toilet paper in the backpack because you just never know what's going to happen on the journey. So same thing with sitting down with my son. And I would say, Emmaus, you never know what's going to happen. Let's give you the essentials so you can be ready. I look forward to unpacking this with you. And I really want to even hear throughout this series as you post on social media about what God's teaching you. Because we'll take each of these weeks and you'll dive into it during the week and read these verses and talk in small groups or have other spiritual conversations and figure out what God's doing in your journey so we can learn from you. So when you think about life purpose, that's where we're going today, part one, is what is the purpose of our life? And as I thought about it this week and said, okay, what times in our life really make us reflect most about life purpose? When you go to a funeral, does it make you sit back and kind of reflect? Maybe when a child is born, or a child goes to kindergarten, or a child's graduating from high school, or anybody in here have a child that's got married? I've not had it. Anybody here that's had a child get married? I bet you that's highly reflective. Say, wow, man, what have I done to this point? What am I going to do from this point? Maybe with your first grandchild or additional grandchildren, or maybe with your first job. Okay, does anybody remember what it felt like on your first job? Like your first real job, like you're going to get a real paycheck and real taxes taken out of it. You're like, that's not fair. But seriously, with your first job, or maybe when you got fired from a job and you came home and you're like, what am I doing with my life? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? Maybe a medical scare, or maybe something with your health that just kind of like caught your attention, or honestly, maybe a hurricane, and you're like, okay, what would happen if a hurricane tore our house down, or our family member died? What would happen? And you kind of step back and you just think more about life purpose, and there are good times too, but like going to the beach. Okay, who likes going to the beach and walking on the beach and like honestly just thinking about life and saying, God, what do you want to do with the rest of my life? And I think God totally speaks through creation. You go to the mountains, you're just looking out and you're like, God, this big old journey I'm on, what do you want to do with my life? What's my purpose in this life? Well, many times people stop and ask that question, what's the purpose? I've heard some people explain it by the dash. Now, what's ironic about this is the guy who came and spoke at the men's breakfast yesterday also talked about the dash. So I got to tell my friend Rhett, I said, man, Rhett, what's up with Steal My Thunder, man? He even read the poem. I mean, how often does Pastor Matt read a poem? Like never, okay? Today, I'm reading you a short poem, and it's called The Dash. Because it's talking about, on your tombstone, on my tombstone, it's going to have a starting date and an ending date, and just a little dash in between. And not to be, somber, but the reality is your whole life is boiled down into that little dash and what you filled it with. So listen to this poem called The Dash. It says, I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears, but he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash, it represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel. Be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that the special dash might only last a little while. And it closes by saying, so when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent, or I like the word better, even invested, your dash? And that's humbling to think about. I mean, honestly, I'm going to have a tombstone someday, and there's going to be a little dash on there, and that will be the measure of my life. When people look and say, man, Matt Vanderbilt, how he invested his dash. And I want it to matter. So I think it is totally worth us taking some time to stop and say, okay, God, the first campfire talk, sitting around, God, tell me about my purpose in life. I really got to think deeply about this. Like I would sit there with my son or my other son or my daughter and say, guys, don't just race through life. Think about your purpose, who you are as a man or a woman, or maybe eventually as a spouse or parent, or definitely as a child or a friend or a worker. Who are you and what's your purpose in that? Are you just going to be about, making money or leaving a footprint that matters, or having a lot of influence or power, or truly investing in people? You're going to try to win, succeed, gain power or status? How are you going to answer that question about the purpose of your life? Well, today as we talk about purpose, if you've been here at Vision very long, we try to be very purposeful. We have a simple mission statement, and we don't just slap it up on the wall and say this long flowing paragraph is who we are. Our mission statement's 2 little chunks. We're here to lead people to Christ and help them live out God's vision for their life. That's what we do. Everything builds off of that. And when you really personalize that, you personalize it, you say, actually, we're here to lead Tim to Christ so that Tim can find God's vision for his life. We're here so that Courtney can be led to Christ and Courtney can live out God's vision for her life. We say, we got that for Craig and Caitlin and Scott and Tony, that you put that name in there. You put Stratton's name in there. Stratton is a little boy in that hallway. And you say, our mission here is to lead Stratton to Christ so that Stratton can live out God's vision for his life. Or I was talking to Whitney this morning, one of our newer mothers, and said, Whitney, I'm going to mention this morning Oakley, that little baby Oakley, we are here to lead Oakley to Christ so that Oakley can live out God's vision for her life. So on your takeaway card, if you got it, I want you to take a look, and I want you to write on there now, or you and you and you sometime this week, write down your name and say literally, Vision Church is here to lead Matt to Christ and help Matt live out God's vision for his life. And I tell you, it changes a mission statement when you put your name in it and know that we're doing that for you. I'm telling you, we are committed to doing that for you, Rick. We're committed to doing that for you, Jake. We are here to do that and help you live out God's vision for your life. So our bottom line today is that the purpose of life is kind of that twofold. It's to have a relationship with God and to live out his vision for your life. I'm telling you, beyond that, stuff really doesn't matter. But if you would walk with God and live out his vision for your life, and this is much bigger than even me saying, well, here's my vision for your life, or me saying, here's my vision for my life. It's God's vision for your life. And we talk about life purpose. It truly comes down to you walking with God and living out his vision for your life. Now, throughout the series, we're going to have some fun with this. We're going to be giving away different stuff. We got Vision hats. We got Vision backpacks. We got, carabiners. Everybody's going to get one of those today, and an invite card. We got, some Vision water bottles, because we don't want to make this so heavy. Everybody's like, oh my goodness, we're just talking about this heavy stuff at church about life purpose and where we came from and relationships. We want to have some fun with this because God is a God of fun. He is. He's a God that says, I have a vision for your life, and let's have some joy in it. Let's give you an abundant life. He talks about going on this journey and having literally like a bag full of stuff you would put on your back and carry. Or he looks at it and says, we're all different kind of tools. All different tools that he's designed differently on this journey. And I love that because it'd be so boring if we were all the same. We all have the same purpose. We're like a bunch of robots just like marching toward a purpose. And God says, no, I've made you so different. So I want to encourage you to at least say, okay, man, if I'm new in church, or I'm not like really totally sold out to like God's vision for my life, because like I've got my vision for my life, that you would say, I'm going to listen and I'm going to think about God as a creator who created each of us uniquely and different to be used by him in his greater vision. We're so different, and I love this because God, he's designed us like as tools or objects, kind of like in his greater journey, in his kingdom. And so I'm actually going to need some help to figure some of this out. So I was trying to think ahead before who would want to come up and help me. And Michelle, would you come and help me? And Mike, See right there, would you come and help me? And front or side over here, how about Mandy? Would you come and help me? And I'm not going to ask you to say anything. You have to do anything. Just come here. You're going to get free stuff. You're going to get free stuff. That's always good. Now, Mike, honestly, I picked you because there are any people in here who don't like the New England Patriots? If you don't like the New England Patriots, then you love Mike. Because you saw Thursday night, they beat the Patriots. But now I'm a Michigan fan, so I'm not at odds with Penn State. But I know you were cheering too last night when the Buckeyes lost. So, wink, wink. No, just kidding. Now, okay. Now, on this journey, there's all kind of like different items and stuff in here. So, Mike, why don't you hold that one? And let's see in here. Man, if you hold that one. And let's see, what else we got in here? Can you hold, Michelle, hold that one. Now, okay, now on our journey, and God looks at us and says, I designed you each differently. Different looks, different skills, different talents. And now this little jobby right here, do you know what that does? This thing is really cool. I learned if you crank it up, it generates energy, and it actually works as a light. I was like, it's so cool because honestly, in the little time I've known you, it's like, you shine. You shine for Christ. I'm like, but what if you're like, no, I want to be what Mike has. And like, Mike, this is a gravity water filter that when I went to Honduras and water was scarce, something like this was golden. So honestly, some days we're like, we need that. That's okay. We don't need it today, but we need this. And if you're like, well, I want to be that. I'm like, well, no, he's that. When it came to nighttime and I got a water bottle filled and we need to get down the trail, we need that. Okay, we need that. So don't be thinking, well, just because in the moment, we need this or we need that, one is better or the other. Now this rolls out and it's a pad that goes underneath your back when you sleep. And believe me, when I slept in some of those places in Honduras, I was like, I would give anything to have some cushioning under my back. There's other things in here, like pop-out tools. There's, I call it like a bear can. Has anybody ever used a bear can before? I guess you go hunting somewhere, you go camping somewhere that you have to pack things in a can so bears don't get it. I think I'm going to stay home, okay? I'm not really interested in camping out where the bears are and just containing the can. But the reality is the difference in Michelle and Mike and Mandy is like God just designed you different. So in your moment, when it's your time to shine, just be you. Don't be like jealous, like, oh man, she gets to be the cranking thing that does a light. Like, no, you're you. And when it comes time to sleep, I turn the lights out, I don't need a light. I need this for my back. And so what I'll do, Michelle, is I will trade you that for that, and you get to keep that by coming up here. And Mike, I'll trade you this to this. So you get your vision gear, and you get some of your vision gear. And let's thank these guys for coming up here and being a part of that. Because on this journey, God makes us all so different. And don't get jealous of Mitch because he can sing. Or don't get jealous of Tony because he can play. Because you got your gift. You got your talent. You got your life experience. And God wants to kind of pull you out of his backpack and show you off. And he wants you to shine. And this is so cool about God being our creator. And if you come in and you're like, man, I'm not really sure if I buy all that. I mean, the whole creation, evolution thing, is God really, did he make it all? Did it just happen? We'll unpack that in a couple weeks. That's another one of our campfire talks, is a worldview about creation. But if you at least would go with me today to say, okay, maybe God made me. Maybe God created me. Because in Psalm 139, I mean, he pours it out and just brags on you. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is David writing. He says, for you, God, you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. So God is saying to you, you are totally not a robot. You are totally not mass-produced. You are individually and personally and dynamically created just the way he wanted to create you. And he'd say, I'm going to pull you out and show you off if you will let me truly live out my vision through you in your life. God says, I have a vision for your life. I hope you believe that. He's got that. He is not just enduring you, putting up with you because you keep messing up, you keep stumbling. He says, no, you're still my prized creation. You have great purpose. So maybe, you're at a spot where you're saying, okay, maybe God can do it for like people up on a stage or people with like big talents. No, you look through the Bible and you see guys like a Paul who used to be a Saul and he was terrible. I mean, he was worse than any of us in this room have ever been. And God said, I can use him. God took a Mary Magdalene and said, you have messed up a bunch. But I'm going to take you. You're still my prized creation. I'm going to use you. Take a Peter with a temper, with anger issues. God says, I'm going to use you. You're my prized creation. How about more current heroes? When you look and see like our history as a country, a George Washington or a Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King or a Billy Graham, you say, God, all of us are so unique and different. And in our visionary body here, we have some amazing creations that God has used. I love walking this journey with you. There was this guy in John chapter 9 who was physically blind. And many times I think we are so spiritually blind that we don't really believe that God could do anything through us. That we think, hey, God, your vision for my life, it must be so small. It must be so simple and basic and just lukewarm. But Jesus, when he was on earth and he interacted with this guy, we don't even know his name in John chapter 9, but this guy was physically blind, and I can relate to him because I was spiritually blind. And this guy interacts with Jesus and comes away from talking to Jesus, and Jesus just says, basically, if you will trust me, I will do things in your life that are powerful. He's like, trust you? He's like, yeah, you're taking mud and washing off and doing just a couple simple things. And many people would say, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to trust you. I'm not going to take a step of faith. But this man said, okay, I'll try it. I'll try it. So this guy takes a small step of faith, even when he's physically blind. So don't miss it, that we, as God's creation, when we are spiritually blind, can say, God, I'll take a small step of faith, and this man gets his sight for the first time ever. And when you think about God's vision for your life, when you catch it for the first time ever, you'll say something like this, because the guy was impounded by the Pharisees and said, how did this happen? Who's the guy? What do you do? What did you check off the list? What order did you follow? And John chapter 9, the guy says, look. This guy Jesus, whether he's a sinner or not, or like from seminary or not, or where he's from or not, or his background, I don't know. And have you ever been in a spot where someone says to you, look, you don't know everything about God. Do you know everything in the Bible? Do you have all the answers? It sure looks like you're not living like that. I see all these blind spots in your life, so you don't really have got God figured out, do you? And this guy says, I'm not going to push back against that. I'm just going to say I don't have God all figured out. This guy said, whether Jesus, this guy is a sinner or not, I don't know, but I do know I was blind and now I see. And for us spiritually, we can say the same thing and say, God, I want your vision to live out through my life. And I don't have you all figured out. I read the Bible and sometimes I don't understand. I try to pray and I feel like it's not effective. I don't have you all figured out. But God, when I see you work, when I take a faith step and I see you work, I can truly say, spiritually, I was blind, but now I'm kind of seeing a little bit. I'm kind of getting this. I'm understanding this. It's like God would come on that campsite, whatever, and like sit down in a chair with you, and God would say, make sure if you got chairs that they are Vision Church chairs, okay? And God, Jesus, would sit down with you and say, look, I've got a vision for your life. No matter what age you are, no matter where you're at, it's not too late. You haven't messed up so much. You haven't walked so long without me. None of that matters, because from right now, you can say, I was blind or not really seeing really well or just not understanding, but now I can see. God, you're helping me understand that you have a vision for my life. And I want you to grasp that, because I can't paint that picture for you. I love when I see some people who've come to our church and are walking with God, and I say, man, it is so phenomenal. It is so cool to see God working in your life. That's God's vision for you. We cannot map that out for you here at Vision Church. We can't. We can just help you kind of find some clues and walk along a journey? Because here's what we've seen at Vision. We've seen people that have kind of said, I'm going to take some faith steps, and I want to find out God's vision for my life. One of them is a lady named Sandra. She happens to be in this service. Sandra, like what has she done in her life to be in a spot where she's got a bunch of hunky guys around her flexing? I'm like, Sandra, she's right there in the middle. You're doing something right, girl. And I think about Sandra. And when Sandra started coming here, she could have just said, I'm kind of in a later stage of life, and I'm just going to kind of just kind of cruise to the end. Instead, she jumped in and said, wait a second. This church is about leading Sandra to Christ and helping Sandra live out God's vision for her life. And I'm not saying she wasn't a Christian, but don't we all have times we just kind of need to be led back to God? We don't lose this salvation. We just need to be led back to say, man, I hadn't sat there in a long time, God, and talked with you. I just need to be led back into that. And we said, Sandra, find God's vision for your life. And she's like, hey, I can do bookkeeping. I'll do that and serve the church. I can do things with my talents to sew and cut. These pockets on these chairs, Sandra and a lady named Meredith, they made that happen this week. They used their talents to make that happen. And I said, Sandra, because of the way you love on people, that's why you get a bunch of strong, handsome men flexing around you. They helped her move. I'm like, that's great. I think about a guy like Mike McCatherine. This guy, Mike, he's a businessman during the week. And he said, wait a second. God's vision for my life is bigger than that. It is bigger than giving a communications company all of my life. And if you guys were here yesterday at the breakfast, you heard about this. That Mike has said, actually, money really doesn't matter. Power, status, really doesn't matter. God's vision for my life, says Mike McCatherine, is to pour into people, is to pour into men, is to pour into students. And this picture up here is truly one of my favorite pictures we've ever had at Vision Church. That 2 years ago on our first student retreat, I looked out and I saw Mike teaching our students from the boat. It was like, Jesus, I just saw that. And the double bonus in it for me is that guy in the boat, next to him is my son, Emmaus. I was like, thank you, Mike. That God's vision for your life, you're listening to it and you're pouring into these students. The next one, of course, I hold real personally is my wife, Meg. That, me and Meg, I think we are nothing special. I'm telling you, we are average, normal people who say, God, what's your vision for our life? And Meg has said, I guess it's to pour into kids, animals that have been hurting, that are in trouble. I'm going to pour into them. And this next picture, I love it, that out at the ranch, we built this playground, and these kids come and play on it. And just personally, I love, look at the diversity in that picture. All those kids, they're like pulled out of God's backpack, and they're like all different, and they're just out there playing, and they're getting a sense that God loves them. Because Meg said, yeah, God's vision for my life is to somehow have some type of ranch that just kind of like makes it enough and cares for people with all we got. All right, our next one, we got two crazy guys at our church. Okay, I could talk about both of them. Specifically, let's talk about Sean, the guy on the right. And Sean, this guy, I love his entrepreneurial spirit. This guy is all about creating and starting stuff. He's had businesses. He's a great family man, and he's in a season of life where he could have said, I'm really kind of going through some stuff. I need to step back. I need to focus on, redirecting my career, my family. Instead, he said, I'm going to jump off towers for kids. And at camp, that is such a great picture of Sean saying, God's vision for my life is just kind of like peel back some layers and get in Camp Trailblazer and love on these kids. And we had one family here, their son Jackson, who was baptized this year, I believe because Sean and Scott poured into that little boy. And I say, Sean, thank you that you are living out God's vision for your life. And this isn't defined just by age, because then there's Grayson. And I love this picture of passion at student camp of Grayson. And Grayson, was one of our high schoolers recently. And, when you're in your last season of high school looking toward college, a lot of times you just kind of downshift a little bit and say, hey, I need to look out for number one, and I need to get ready for college and all those things. And this young man stepped up and said, actually, no, I'm going to invest in students. I've only got maybe 6 months left here, but I'm going to invest in them and serve with them and sing with them and go to camp with them. And this man, oh man, I love Grayson. I didn't even know him a year ago. And he has caught God's vision for his life to where I texted him yesterday. He's up in Boston. And through a connection that we had here at Vision, he's found a church home. He's already auditioning to sing. He invited 5 people to go to church with him today at this church in Boston. I love it that he has caught God's vision for his life. And in this last one, little Everly. If you know Everly, she's on the left. This girl is all about smiles and hugs and showing you her little stuffed animals. And anytime she's here at Vision, she is just like a walking host team. She really is. I have heard stories of kids that have gone into Trailblazer, all nervous and whatever, and Everly goes over and spends time with them. And I'm like, girl, you're getting it. You are catching God's vision for your life at that age. So some next steps for us. Some next steps. The first one is you got to learn about God's vision for your life. Of course, that's got to start with the relationship with God. And we'll unpack that in a moment. But all of us learning about God's vision, we're one of these tools or items that he wants to use and show off in his great big overall vision. He says, learn about the vision I have for your life. The number one way that happens is spending time with God. I mean, there is no other way to manufacture it. You must spend time with God. I'm not talking about 6 hours a day in your prayer closet and 4 hours a day in your Bible, because for most of us, that's just not possible. But God's saying, think about me. Stop for 5 minutes and read, or 5 minutes and pray, or have a spiritual conversation that gives you a chance to hear my voice, maybe through other people. There's real tools you can use, because you know me, I'm all about giving you some tools. Here's some tools that I have used over the years. One is a spiritual gift survey. You can simply go online and Google Spiritual Gift Survey, Lifeway. You get on there, you print it out, and in like 15 minutes, you can go through the stuff and figure out that when God's Spirit is inside of you, that you have gifts that are unique to you. And you start figuring that out, you're like, oh man, I want to serve behind the scenes, or I want to do this, or I want to use my handy skills, or I want to with people, or God will help you to navigate. And with Vision, we'll help you as well to navigate that. The second part is kind of knowing your personality, because you really got to understand you before you can understand God's vision. So whether it's a personality test like a Myers-Briggs or the DISC inventory, and you're like, what do those mean? Hey, go on, Google it, and Google them, particularly like DISC, and you'll start to understand more about yourself, the way you're wired, and it'll help you to navigate to find your spot. 2 other resources I want to give you that were so valuable to me and Meg both. One is a book called Holy Ambition by Chip Ingram. If you got anything out there you're just kind of praying about or thinking about, saying, man, it's too big, it's too impossible, I couldn't do that, I would love to try, but I can't do it, you get Chip's book, or you get Bruce Wilkinson's book, The Dream Giver, and you read these books, and they'll help you to identify obstacles and landmines and discouragements and help and tools and encouragement on your journey to truly find God's vision for your life. That's the first piece, learning about his vision for your life. The second is taking some steps of faith. This is not going to happen by you just sitting at home in your comfort zone all the time. It's going to take a step of faith. It's going to take coming maybe next Sunday to Impact, saying, look, I don't know where I want to serve, but I want to try something. Can I test drive somewhere? And we'll help you. We'll walk you through that. We'll help you. Maybe it's a small group. You say, okay, they're talking about these small groups. I would like to try one. We'll get you in a small group. Because when you hang around with some other Christians, you're going to hear God speak to you through them. I promise you that. Your next step of faith is going to be challenging, sometimes awkward, but God will honor that. He will. The third one is write your tombstone. Write your tombstone. One of my favorite books I read about 15 years ago is called Courageous Leadership by a pastor in Chicago. And he talked about how he got together with some friends one time, and they actually took foam board or wood or something and made a little tombstone, and their assignment was to write what would go on their tombstone. And you're like, man, this is really like, heavy. You think it's heavy now? You wait till you get to your last days of life and you didn't think about this, it's going to be real heavy then. Writing your tombstone is simply saying, how do I want to be known? What was the vision? What was driving me? Was it evident? Did anybody even know it? I mean, for me, when I read that and thought about it, and I spent a lot of time walking and praying and figuring out, God, what would be on my tombstone? What would I want to be said of me? And I got it. I figured it out. And it has stuck with me since then. So here's kind of what I think it would look like. It would say that Matt, he loved God. He loved people. He had the gift of leadership. So I said, he led with diligence. That comes from Romans 12. And he left a legacy. So the things I do, I measure them by this. I don't want to get off track. Say, hey, is this about loving God? Yes. Is this about loving people? Yes. If it's outside of that, it's not for me. Am I best using my gifts? And your gifts are going to be different. Don't get jealous. Gift of leadership, mercy, encouragement, whatever your gift is, that's part of how you're packaged as a tool in God's hands. I want to lead with diligence. I want to make the most of my opportunity, and I don't want it to end when I die. I want it to carry on. I want a legacy to be left. So truly, when I die and you come to my funeral and you say, that was Matt. He loved God and people. He led with diligence. He left a legacy. Well done. He spent his dash very well. So, you got these next steps to think about. It's on you. I've delivered the message. And we've got vehicles here to help you. We do. The first one today is we're going to have a chance to sing. And I want you in this song to think about how much God loves you. That Psalm 139 is all about you. David would have written that just for you. He would have wrote it just about you and said, you are an amazing creation of God, and God loves you so much. He wants you to live out the vision he has for you. That is your purpose.